Hey guys, Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I am so excited to have the one and only Queen of Opera. We're going to learn about that. D'Andrea Pelletier is here with us. She has a show coming up, Puccini. You're going to have to Google that, you young people. Puccini for Lovers, February 14th at Mills Gallery. Shout out to Boris and his team. I happen to know her mom, Dina, who's in the background, and her husband's over here. It's just such a small world. You never know. But she is a big talent. I actually had the privilege of hearing her perform at Z Coast Base for an event they did, and I just thought she was phenomenal, and she is phenomenal. So we're going to hear her journey. She's actually going to sing for us, which is such an honor. I'm so excited. And enough about me yammering on. Welcome to the show, D'Andrea. How are you?
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And I don't know why we're buffering, but we're going to fix that. So I told you before we went live that the audience really, really loves an origin story. They want to know, you didn't wake up one morning and go, I want to be the Queen of Opera. I mean, maybe you did.
Well,
maybe that's actually the story, but tell them a little bit about you.
Well, I did wake up one day and say I wanted to be a singer, but what genre, I wasn't sure what genre. It really all started, I have always loved music, and I listened to a lot of people like Mariah Carey and Tina Marie growing up. So I loved their voices, and I did feel like I wanted to sing, but I wasn't quite sure where I fit because the other genres that I tried to sing, quite honestly, wasn't for me. But I was playing violin when I was 11, and
Amazing.
I heard this beautiful song. I didn't know what it was, but I come to find out that it was actually from Gianni Schicchi, which is a Puccini opera, and the aria was called O mio bambino caro, and we had to play it on the violin. And interestingly enough, I didn't know that it was from an opera at first, but all I knew was I felt like I wanted to sing when I heard it.
I love it. So you were connected to it.
Very much so. And so the rest was history. I met an opera singer for the first time when I was 15. And once I heard her sing in front of me, I was so captivated. And I said, there you go. I know that's what I'm going to sing. So
did you come from a musical background? Is your family musical?
Yes, very musical. My mom and my dad both love music, grew up on every genre of music. My dad plays so many instruments. He has perfect pitch, which is where I got it from. My mom, little known fact, even though she's a real estate agent and a broker, she is also a songwriter. She'll never tell you.
A songwriter. Mm-hmm. We're going to have to get your mom on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so definitely very musical family, and they had a passion for music, but classical music was something altogether new for me. So that was it was an interesting experience. I didn't really grow up on it, but once I started playing violin, my mom got me a record player, got all of these old orchestral vinyls. And so I just fell in love with it.
You fell in love. Yeah. What is it about? I have a great connection to classical music, opera. It's it's an emotional connection. I don't exactly know why. I think my grandfather, who was Italian. I remember hearing the vinyls. I remember the family playing them, and there was just always so much emotion in it. Is that what your connection is? How do you? Because for a lot of people, opera is intimidating.
Right. Yeah.
Classical music is.
It can be. And I think that's why there's not nearly as much exposure to classical music these days, is it can be very intimidating. But if you are given it, and this is one of our main reasons why we decided to do Queen of Opera the way that we do, is we wanted to bring it to people that wouldn't necessarily know anything about it, which is a lot of people. As beautiful and as timeless as classical is, it's amazing how many people don't really understand the beauty of it unless someone brings it to you. But once they bring it to you, or if you're exposed to it with your family, you know how beautiful it is, whether it has words or if it's in a different language. Classical music transcends everything. And so one of our main goals with Queen of Opera was to bring classical music and opera into spaces that you wouldn't typically hear it. So I think we've done a really good job of that and bringing it into places that aren't just the opera stage. But I think really making it accessible makes it much less intimidating.
I agree. I always think of that scene in Pretty Woman where she watches her first opera and she just connects with it. And I think you have to not be intimidated by the foreign language, the different language, really just feel the emotions of the performers. It just catches you. So for those of you out there who haven't experienced opera, experienced classical music, I encourage you to do so, because there's so much emotion and such great storytelling in both. So Queen of Opera. Mm-hmm. Queen of Opera. That's a great website, which is scrolling across the bottom there, but that's also a big title. So talk a little bit about that. I know some of the reason you shared, but did this just come to you one day and go, okay, I'm just going to label it Queen of Opera and this is how it's going to work? What was that whole process like for you?
Well, really what happened was we come from a family of realtors. And so, with real estate, you need to get exposure to your brand. It's one of the main things, the marketing. So we learned a lot from the real estate aspect of business and marketing on how we're going to get attention. And especially when you're doing opera and classical on your own and not necessarily with the traditional way, which is a very different than how we do. When you're running your own business, you have to stand out no matter what industry it is. And we already knew that. So we said, how can we apply that into classical music? So my husband and I were sitting and we were brainstorming, because if I call myself D'Andrea Pelletier soprano, not a lot of people will pay attention because there are so many sopranos. So we said, what's going to really get the attention of people? And also, what title can we have that we really have to live up to it, and Queen of Opera is certainly that. So it just came to me in a flash. I said, okay, we can do Queen of Opera. And so we searched really quick just to make sure no one else held that title.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, so were we. We were very shocked that no one had taken it. And we said, well, we better get on it quick. So we instantly bought the website and started to brand everything on socials as Queen of Opera. With that came a lot of people that, this was 5 years ago before I really was known in the industry. But because of that title, I can tell you, although there was initially, some people loved it, other people really didn't like it. And they said, oh, I'll be the judge of that, Queen of Opera. But I was happy that a lot of people, once they heard me, they said, okay, well, you at least have a voice enough to say, yes, you are that. And so it definitely, I will say, has kept the precedent up vocally to make sure that I'm always ready and practicing, because you can't call yourself the Queen of Opera and not have a good voice and train. So I had to make sure.
I love it. Yeah. Though. I love that that story, because I think you picked the title, and now you are just constantly building toward and holding yourself accountable in some way, shape, or form. I have to be if I'm saying I'm the Queen of Opera, I better perform like I'm the Queen of Opera. And I can tell you, obviously, firsthand, and they'll learn soon, how amazing your voice is. And it's absolutely a true statement. Tell me what the vision is for Queen of Opera. You touched a little bit on it. You want to get out. You want to get in with other people. You want to bring it to the masses, basically. So what are some of the things that you're doing to accomplish that?
Well, first and foremost, when we do any public performances, one of the main goals is always get in front of places that you wouldn't typically see opera. So although it's beautiful, and I have done this, singing on stage and getting in front of people that already love opera, our main goal is to be the mainstream of opera. So there are a few people that have already paved the way of what we're looking to do, the same kind of template. Andrea Bocelli is the main person who's out there, and he doesn't just sing in opera houses. If anything, he doesn't really sing in opera houses. He sells at arenas like the Kia Center. And so that is our trajectory. And so in order to do that, again, it's not necessarily playing small. It's going out, getting our board of directors and expanding into a space where maybe someone would apply it in a different industry. We're doing it with opera. So really getting international. We have created our own music. We have a lot of repertoire out already on streaming platforms. For instance, we've written our own classical music. We're writing our own operas. So not just singing what other composers have written, but we are the composers. When I say we a lot, it's my husband and I, we write music together. So just overall expanding in a way that you don't typically see opera singers do. That's what we're doing. But again, Andrea Bocelli, Sarah Brightman has paved the way. Hauser, he's a cello player, but his business model is very similar to what we are doing, and Andre Rayu. So making more, not just full production operas, but more concert fun things, much like Puccini for Lovers is going to be this Friday.
But I want to get to that, but I'm thinking about what you said.
Mm-hmm.
This is how creative I believe you are, and I know you and your husband are. I thought you couldn't write classical music or your own opera now. For some reason in my brain, I'm thinking only the past. So you're always singing someone else. How amazing and creative for you all to go, I can write my own opera. I can write my own classical music. I can perform that, but you can also write it. You're doing your own original stuff. What's that like to when you all have written an opera or a piece? What's it like to perform that?
It's the creation process is probably, as much as I love to sing live, it's the most exhilarating part of what we do, to feel like we have our hands in the clay of how opera is being shaped now. It feels amazing, honestly, and very gratifying and very humbling, because you don't realize just how much goes into it until you have that aspect of it, not just as the performer, but as the composer and arranger. So it's a lot of fun at the end of the day.
It's your baby. It's your baby,
exactly.
Right? It's another baby.
Right.
All right, let's talk about Puccini for Lovers. That is this Friday, correct, at Mills Gallery. So tell me about the actual event itself and give us some 411 details and background, and what can we expect?
Well, I will say, if you're not a fan of opera, this is the show for you. If you are a huge fan of opera, this is also the show for you, because this is going to be a show that it's integrating a lot of fun. It's not especially if you're a new fan or not a fan yet, it's not very stuffy. It's not sitting in a seat and being quiet for the next 3 hours. It's mingling. It's a Valentine's Day themed show. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and, seeing opera from a storytelling perspective. So I'll be telling the story of each opera or aria, and it's not just from one opera. It's from various Puccini pieces, as well as other famous composers that have written love songs, and that's all composers.
And so it's 7. Tell us a little bit about the details on it.
Yeah, so it's going to be from 7 to 10 at Mills Gallery. John and Sasha Korzynski. John Korzynski is a piano player with Opera Orlando, and Sasha Korzynski is with the Orlando Philharmonic. So I just did a concert with them a few days ago, and so they're going to be there singing or performing a few pieces with me as well on violin and piano. But it's going to be charcuterie, it's chocolates, it's wine and champagne, and it's storytelling through the art of opera.
It's so romantic. Guys, if you're looking for a romantic place to take your significant other or girls, you should absolutely check it out. And we'll have the link in the bottom there in the comments, and we'll get to that. So, and I want to give a shout out again to February 14th, Puccini for Lovers, Mills Gallery. And do not forget that. I know you guys have not planned for your February 14th. This would be a beautiful way for you to impress with love. All right. So I am excited to hear you perform. I heard you perform at Zico Space, and I never take video of a performer, but I took video of you and I actually shared it on my social media, again, not knowing that you were Dina's daughter. It's such a small world. But I just was so moved and mesmerized. And the fact that you could do that at night in a crazy little networking crowd, that just shows your versatility. So kudos to you for that. But I'm going to scooch out of the picture. And what I'd like you to do is obviously perform, but tell us a little bit about the music that you're going to perform and why.
Okay, absolutely. So I will give you all a piece that is very popular with pretty much anyone who's a fan of opera knows Puccini. And since I'm singing Puccini for Lovers, this is one of the pieces that we're going to open with this Friday. This is called O mio bambino caro, and this is from Gianni Schicchi by Puccini, the first aria I ever heard. And this piece is very fun because it's from a comic opera by Puccini, which he does a lot of tragedies. This one is fun, and it's about a girl who is trying to convince her father that she wants to marry this man because he's so, so handsome. They're already going to buy the ring, and so he has to say yes. So this is her very good attempt at convincing him to allow her to marry him. And so this is O mio bambino caro. I'll give you a little taste of it before this weekend. O mio bambino caro, chills all before warming up today.
Word. So I got tears in my eyes and chills. I don't know how, like, that is, I'm looking at the audience, they're used to it. It's just so moving. When you hit that first note out, when you went high, listen, I know she's a soprano, right? But there's so much emotion. That's the thing. I don't know what exactly she said, but I know how she feels, what she's feeling and what kind of feeling she's trying to present to the audience. And so that was absolutely amazing. Seriously, choked up. I love it. I think that opera and classical music, it's a universal language that you just have to be able to be open to it because the emotions are universal. And when you hear someone perform like DeAndrea, you are absolutely transported to wherever she's taking you, and you are feeling the emotions that the composer and the performer wants you to feel. All right. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. Tell them once more how to find you and how they can get tickets or register for Friday night.
So you can find me everywhere, even if you just Google, thankfully, queenofopera.com, or excuse me, Queen of Opera, you can find me, but you can also go to queenofopera.com to find some more information on me. On tickets to the show for Puccini for Lovers is also on our website, queenofopera.com, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere. I'm Queen of Opera, and Instagram, The Queen of Opera, TikTok, Queen of Opera, and all things Queen of Opera will pop my face and my voice.
So good. All right, before we head out, I'd like to ask a personal question. So when I say, from a musical perspective, from a performer perspective, when I say the word hero, who's the first person who comes to mind?
Hero. From a musical perspective, Maria Callas.
Tell me why.
She embodies everything Queen. So when I thought of Queen of Opera before myself, I thought Maria Callas, and she is what they call La Divina, everything from her technique to her demeanor, from the way she comes off when she sings. She is never off stage, even when she's off stage. So I see her in my mind when I'm singing. So for me, she is my musical hero, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Get out and support our artists, our creatives. They pour their hearts and souls into everything that they do, and they want nothing more than to be able to reach you. But you have to get outside your comfort zone, maybe try something different. Don't sit and watch true crime at night, just like me. Go to Puccini for Lovers on Friday at Mills Gallery and get behind DeAndrea and support her. queenofopera.com. Thank you so much for being on the show. You guys get out. You're looking for new things to do. Definitely follow DeAndrea and Queen of Opera and go on Friday.